Hi, this is the help video for Excel Chapter 2, Pause and Practice number 3. We're going to do step 5 in this movie. It's about the VLOOKUP function. VLOOKUP is a powerful function, and what it is meant to do is to, based on a piece of information, look up and return another piece of information. So if we take a look at our rates and tables, you can see here is a lookup table. So when you use the lookup function, there's really two parts to it. One is to create the table of information that you're looking something up in, and then there's the actual function that creates the lookup that goes and pulls information. So what we have here is in the very left column, we have a product ID. And so when you're setting up a lookup table, the piece of information at the very left edge of the table needs to be what you use to look up against. So right now that we're looking up product ID, but let's say we have a grading system here where we are looking up information. So if you have a 90 or above, you get an A. If you have an 80 or above but less than 90, you get a B, right? So this table, we're still looking up at the left, but it's looking up a range of values. Between 80 and 90, you get a B. Between 70 and 80, you get a C. So there's two ways that you can set up a lookup table. One is with an absolute value, for example, a part number, where you might have a part number over here on the left and then different pieces of information about that part. Maybe the material, some kind of dimension, cost, whatever you would have about it. And those would be across the lookup table, still keying in on the part number to look up. That's what we're doing here. There's an absolute product ID PLR 001. 002. It's not a range. So you got to think about that when you're doing the function. Second, you can have as many pieces of information about that item, that person, that grade, whatever you're setting the table up. And what you return depends on what you want for that particular instance of a VLOOKUP. So if you look at our lookup table, we have two pieces of information. We have a description and we have a cost. So when we set up the VLOOKUP, we could either return this description of the item or we could return the cost. And this lookup table has three columns, column 1, column 2, and column 3. So you want to understand when you're creating a lookup table, it doesn't have anything to do with where it physically resides within your Excel spreadsheet. So when we're talking about columns in a lookup table, it's not a column C. This is column 3, right? 1, 2, 3. And based on what piece of information you want to return, you put in that number, a 2 or a 3. If I put in a 2 when I do the VLOOKUP, I'm going to return the description. If I put in a 3, I'm going to return the cost. Okay, so you have to set your lookup table up correctly. So now let's go back to merchandise. So if we look at merchandise, here's that PLR number, right? So this is our product ID. We already have the description in there, so we don't need to look that up. But look, cost is missing. So that is the information that's in column 3. So we want to build a function here that goes and finds in our table what the cost is for this product ID. And the reason we want to do it rather than typing it in is if the cost for that item changes, we just change it in the rates and in this table, and then anywhere that uses that function, it will automatically adjust, and we don't have to worry about going anywhere and making another change. We just maintain the data in that one table, that lookup table. So let's go ahead and start this. We want to be in A4. And then we're going to go to formulas and find the lookup. Well, there's a lookup and reference category. So we're just going to click on that, and VLOOKUP is the last. Sorry, it's the third from the last. VLOOKUP. Oh, and I want to show you this. There's also an HLOOKUP. The only difference here is how your table is set up. So in a VLOOKUP, the unique information is in the left column. In an HLOOKUP, that unique piece of information is in a row. And I tell you, I've been using this electronic spreadsheets for I don't even know how many years, going back to VisiCalc and then Lotus and then Excel. I think I've used the HLOOKUP maybe once. Normally it's a VLOOKUP. So let's go ahead, look up in reference, go to the bottom, find VLOOKUP. All right, notice in here there's 3 elements that are required because they're bold. Range lookup is optional. So the first thing we do is the lookup value. That means here, where is the piece of information that is in the first column of our lookup table, which is the product ID, right? So we come over here and say, this is what we're looking up. We're looking up this flashlight. We want to find the cost for flashlight, PLR011. The next thing we pick is the table array, and that is, I have to go to rates and tables. And when you're defining your table, you don't include the labels and you include the entire table. The other thing you always do is you hit the F4, because when you copy this VLOOKUP, this table it never shifts. It's always in this same location. So you always want to lock that in. So absolutely every time you define your table array, unless you're using a named range, if you're using the cell locators, you always F4 it. Column index, that is, am I returning column 1? Am I returning column 2? Am I returning column 3? Well, column 3 in our lookup is what has the cost. So I put a 3 in there. And look, it says $8.75. Now, I could go ahead and do OK, but let's talk about this range lookup. So a range lookup is the default for VLOOKUP, meaning like the example I showed with the grade, where you're looking at a lowest and highest in a range of values. In this case, so if we were using a range, we wouldn't have to put anything in there. But we are using an exact match. We want to find PLR 011 exactly, not greater than 010 and less than 012, right? It's not a range, it's an exact match. And when it's an exact match, you have to put the word false in here. And that's it. So we're going to go ahead and do OK. I have 875, which is the correct thing. I can validate it by coming over here and looking at my flashlight. Where's my flashlight? There it is, 875. That's what it brought up. So now I can go to this little box at the corner, double click, it's going to fill in, and I can just spot check. So PLR001 sun protection shampoo. Let's go over here. It's $3.75, and it is. Let's do one more. 7 water bottle, 125. Perfect. So it definitely works. So we're good. All right. That's it for VLOOKUP. We're going to move on to the next movie, which is Some Product. Thank you.